In this video, I'm going to talk about a vendor credit. A vendor credit can be used to reduce the amount owed to a vendor. And this can happen for a lot of reasons. Maybe there was an order placed and there was an issue with that order, or there were some damaged goods, or there was a vendor or a contract or job that wasn't completed, or something along those lines. And the vendor credit would be able to be applied to future vendor bills under that vendor. And to create a vendor credit, you would go to New Transaction, and here's the option right here for a vendor credit. Or you can use this New button over in the top left corner, and here's the vendor credit right here. Now, I do want to mention that if it's an issue where the vendor bill was created by mistake, or the vendor bill is no longer valid, for example, this bill right here for legal and professional fees, if this was, for example, entered by mistake, you could simply delete this vendor bill if it's no longer valid. Deleting a vendor bill is going to be a little different than doing a vendor credit. And you'll just have to use your judgment as far as which one you want to do, whether you want to delete a vendor bill or use a vendor credit to offset the amount owed to the vendor. Whatever makes more sense for the specific situation you're looking at is what you should do. So what I'm going to do now is go to a vendor so that I can demonstrate creating a vendor credit and applying it to a bill. So I'm going to go to Bob Contractor. You can see that there was a previous vendor bill that was paid, and then now they also have this open vendor bill. So let's say, for example, that there was some issue with the job that this contractor did, and the company had already paid them the $1,000, and the vendor agreed to give the company a credit, which is going to reduce the amount they owe to this vendor, which we'll be able to apply to the new bill for $1,500. So let's say that this vendor gives a credit of $200. So what I would do is go to New Transaction, Vendor Credit, and I would create this vendor credit for the $200 that the vendor said they would give a credit for. Now, as far as what category to use, I suggest using the same account that was used for the original bill. So in this case, it was subcontractors. And then I would put whatever notes made sense for the situation. And I could put a reference number if I wanted to. And then for the date, I would just put whatever makes sense. Maybe the date that I talked to the contractor and they gave the credit. Okay, so I'm just going to save and close this. So now if you look at the summary on this page, it says they have an open balance of $1,300, but it's still showing an overdue payment for this vendor bill of $1,500. So what I need to do is apply the vendor credit to the open bill. So I'm going to click on this drop-down arrow and click on Mark as Paid. Now you can see that it's automatically showing me writing a check, and the amount of the payment is $1,300, and it's showing the open bill with the $200 vendor credit applied to that open bill. However, if I'm not paying this, if I'm not actually paying this right now, I can change this to $200 and change this to 0. And then I can change the reference number as well. I'm just going to type in here, apply credit. Okay, so this is going to create a 0 amount paid. So I'm going to click on Save and Close. And you can see that it shows this 0 line item here where I applied the credit. And now the open balance and the overdue payment is showing the same amount. So I successfully applied the vendor credit to the open vendor bill. But I still will have to make sure that this other $1,300 gets paid. And that's it. That's all you would have to do. If for some reason there was not an open vendor bill to apply the credit to, then you could just leave the vendor credit there until the next vendor bill came up for this vendor. And that's all I wanted to cover today. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below, and thank you for watching.